Welcome to the Upshot, Ulti-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor of Ulti-World Disc Golf, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, as always, Josh Mansfield. And we are in Las Vegas Challenge Week. The 2023 season is finally upon us. We've made it, Josh. It's been like 2 months of preview shows, and now we finally get to have some disc golf.
It was funny because we were doing our looking back shows, and I remember there was 1 week that we're like, I think we're ready. Let's do a preview show. And in hindsight, that preview show came several weeks too early. And we should have done a couple more looking back shows, but it's all right. We made it there.
We have, if you're trying to get hyped up for the season, you can go into the back catalog of the last 2 months, and we've got a lot of content about the upcoming season. We're not going to try to rehash it all today, but we are going to, of course, get you ready for the top 5 things we're looking forward to as big stories this year. So what are the biggest stories of the year going to be that we're looking at? Top 5.
So before we go any further, Charlie, I think we do need to clarify. We're not talking All-Stars at all today. We are actually recording the weekend before. All-Stars is still happening. Charlie's about to go on vacation for a couple of weeks. So we're recording these the week before LVC preview early. I will be recording the week after with Daniel Prentice, who's doing our draft competition with us. You saw him last week. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out that episode, go do so. It was a great one. Lots of fun. But if you want to hear about All-Star Weekend, please go check out our Rapid React show as we do live on Sunday in the Discord for subscribers. We do it every single tournament. It is less than $4 a month to become a subscriber, and you get access to the Discord, which was great fun today. And is every tournament, I think. So that's got to be one of the biggest perks, is getting to hang out in the Discord. Yeah,
this show is being recorded for everybody's awareness, Friday, February 17th. So we are past round the skills competition day of All-Stars. Alexis Mondahano out here doing the thing. We'll have more, of course, in our Rapid React show. So get yourself a subscription, discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe, and get ready to roll for the entire season of all our Rapid React shows. So we're going to go into deep detail on the All-Star Weekend over there.
Can I ask one thing about the All-Star Weekend?
Yeah.
Can we make fun of Ricky for having to drop out and the wrist issue?
Well, I guess what's your point? Because I feel like the guy wanted to play, right?
I believe you. I completely agree. But man, Paul lives rent free in that guy's head. Paul switches to do putting against Ricky, right? And then Ricky drops out because of the wrist issue. Which, look, Ricky has Lyme disease. I completely believe.
He had to drop out of the little pro-am thing the day before.
Yes,
for the same reason,
and did so last season too, if I remember right. He dropped out of a tournament because his knee flaring up.
That's right.
This does not just like a flare up that means Ricky wants to take a week off. Doesn't surprise me at all. But the fact that in the Instagram video, Ricky has to say, and I promise it's not because I'm scared of Paul, Paul, rent free, baby.
It's too bad. I mean, I feel like it took some of the shine off the whole thing for me when that was announced and that Ricky wasn't going to be able to play, because it was all this nice build up with Ricky versus Paul and the head to head singles match coming up and everything.
Yeah,
and you lose it. But obviously, hope he can play at LVC. Still registered, of course. He said he thinks it's going to be back quick. Okay, really quick before we get to these top 5 stories heading into the season, I just happened to come across this on Reddit. So shout out to user Disc Golf Fanatic, who's just, a total disc golf fanatic and just posts all the content to our disc golf. This is an amazing one. I had missed this. This is from a week and change ago. 13-year-old Wyatt Mahoney, PDGA number 89460, is now the youngest player ever to win a B tier in MPO. And Josh, when I saw that, I was like, okay, but what was this tournament? Was this there were 6 people in MPO or something?
Sure.
No, that is not what it was. There were 20 people at the tournament. He was the 6th highest rated. I mean, he is 13 years old, Josh, and he's rated 973. 973. I think, you start to look ahead right now. He's a lefty. Special stuff on your hands right there. Youngest player ever to do it. And then I went and looked because I was like, how have I not heard about him? He was only 9th at Junior Worlds last year in the under 15 division. And I'm looking at all the ratings, and they're all like 960 rated. And I'm like, wow, I am a terrible disc golfer. And we should all feel bad.
Have you seen, I don't know his name, I'll be honest. But there's a kid who's on Team Innova, and he's like 7, and he's like ripping these foreheads. And the disc looks as big as his chest. Like, it looks like it could be like a shield on his arm. And when he does a forehand, he's like yeeting his arm all the way over because he has to use his full body weight to like even throw a forehand. But he can lace it like 230 feet down a fairway, just straight as an arrow. It's amazing. Crazy. It's crazy.
Well, when we were talking about this in the pre-show, Josh, what did you tell me?
Oh, I said in 10 years, like, we won't even know, like, we don't know the names of the people who are going to be just absolutely dominating in 10 years. And it's going to be like, sorry, Paul Macbeth who? Like, everyone is going to be a Paul Macbeth kind of player. It's not going to be top 10 or top 20s. There's just so many young upcoming players that we just don't even know about. And that's not even mention those who haven't even found the sport yet. I mean, how many of the players do we have right now weren't playing the sport 5 years ago and are still in the top 20?
Right.
Holland Hanley, or Ella Hansen, Ezra Aderhold. I think Aaron Gossage is on that list. I mean, there are a handful of players who just didn't even play 5 years ago. And as the sport continues to grow and you have young people taking it really seriously, as well as athletes moving over, I mean, this game is just going to continue to blossom.
It's going to be wild. All right, let's get into it. It's going to be kind of a quick show today, but it should be fun and get you just ready for the season. At number 5, and the biggest stories of the year leading into the year, it's not going to go away, and it's coming. There's going to be news on this, and that's Natalie Ryan and the issue of transgender competition in the FPO division at Elite Series events. Obviously, the PDGA came out with the big news. We did 2 shows on this topic. If you want to go back and listen to all that, we're not going to rehash all of the conversation. But the thing is, there's almost certainly going to be legal action, and this is going to be not only a very interesting story to follow in disc golf, but also in the wider sports world. I mean, there are going to be a lot of legal scholars looking at this case because this could, other sports federations are going to be looking at this. Like this has the opportunity to be important case law. Mm-hmm. So, this is, and I don't know what's going to happen. It's Natalie was signed up for a bunch of DGBT events, no longer registered for those events. But what is going to happen on this front? How are judges going to deal with this issue? Like this, is the PDGA ready for a legal fight? Surely they know that this had to be coming. And if they didn't know when they made their initial announcements, they certainly knew is when Natalie said that she was going to be taking legal action. So this, Josh, this is going to be a story all year, I think.
It's definitely going to be a story different than what it was last year. Last year was Natalie Ryan in the context of competition that kind of teed up this argument and this issue in what is now evolved into, as you said, a legal battle, one that is going to kind of define precedent for other sports, disc golf, and is certainly because of there are temporary injunctions placed all the time in cases. If I would not be there, does not seem outside the realm of possibility that Natalie pursues legal action and a judge says, while legal status is pending, Natalie has to be allowed to play.
I agree with you 100%.
She could be back on tour by Waco even.
It seems plausible. I can't, as a non-lawyer, I can't really speak to the ins and outs of like what's going to happen here, but I'm going to read the entire lawsuit that gets filed or lawsuits and like give it to legal friends to look at, and like we're going to do some break, because I mean this is going to be very interesting stuff, and I'm sure some people are going to just be completely uninterested in dealing with any of it, and they just want it to go away. I think a lot of people just want it to go away. They want Natalie to go away. They want this topic to go away, and I understand that, but I think at the end of the day, like this is like big time conversation in our culture right now, and we're all trying to figure out like what does fairness mean in sports, and like how do we deal with changing norms around gender and stuff. So going to be something to follow, and more to come for sure. Josh, what do we got at number 4?
Number 4, can new manufacturers get established? The obvious one here, Lone Star. We know that they put a lot of money into players, and it's going to be interesting when your flagship player is Nico. And it was always different when it was like West Side, right? West Side being a part of Trilogy felt a little bit different. When it was Gateway, long established, and also and Nico like has relationships at Gateway, I believe. And so felt kind of different there. Lone Star is using Nico similar to the way that Clash did, right? As an opportunity to leverage his publicity in order to accelerate the growth of their brand. And look, it kind of worked for Clash, even with the debacle, right? Like Clash still is significantly more popular than you ever would have expected going into last year. It's going to be interesting to see if Lone Star navigates that. It's going to be interesting to see how Clash continues to grow, if they do. But you also have TSA making a lot of pickups there. Infinite Discs picking up more on their team. Lots of manufacturers, and Infinite being a retail/manufacturer. And it's going to be interesting to see how they establish themselves on the Pro Tour and in competition in particular, and then what that does for their brand.
And are we going to see anybody struggling? It will be hard to identify that in some ways. Of course, we'll use the proxy of their players that they have sponsored, and looks bad when such and such players aren't playing well, and what does that mean for the brand? I mean, it's a little hard to say. We know that success can be helpful to a brand, but how harmful is players that are not playing well? I think the real question is there room for all of these brands, and is there enough market share out there for everybody to like get ROI on what are a lot of bigger deals that are getting signed? When you're seeing players move from, an Innova to a ThoughtSpace or to a Lone Star, that's not happening in a complete vacuum. Presumably Innova is still offering those players renewal contracts at similar prices or maybe slight raises compared to what they had last year. And these players are leaving to get a better deal, as they should. But, that means that there's financial risk happening for these small companies that are not as established. So does that pay off? Do we see continued upward trajectory of disc sales, or does stuff cool off? I mean, I think that 2023 feels like the first year where it really is like, okay, the pandemic craziness is over in a lot of ways, and now we're back to this is how things are going to be moving forward. And what did they look like this year? You've got all of the like tail end, all the lag effect of all those new players, right? They've all become PDGA members by now. There's not that many more of them left to pick up. So what do we see for growth in 2023? Fascinating question, and I think it plays out with the manufacturers.
At Pound, the quality of our gear runs deeper than the stitching. That's why we make everything right here in the U.S., employing highly skilled, well-paid professionals. From bomb-proof Cordura fabric to YKK zippers and recycled plastics, we source the highest quality U.S. materials to make the most comfortable, durable pack in disc golf. Our lifetime warranty stays with the pack, not the purchaser. So regardless of how you find us, we will be here to make sure your pack stays on the course and out of the landfill. Pound's integrity is held together with more than just thread.
Okay. Number 3. I'm excited, Josh, and I think it's going to be a story to watch this year. What are we going to see with all these new events? We have all these silver events, new ones. We have the Euro Tour. A lot of those events aren't new per se.
New to tour.
Yeah, in a way, because DGPT points are getting awarded, right? And we've got Macbeth going over there and doing a whole thing. It feels like we're going to get a spotlight on a lot of new courses and areas. And how does that change the way we feel about the flow of the tour? Because the flow of the tour has now been the same for what feels like about 5 years at this point. Obviously, with some subtle changes here and there. But is this going to open the doors to more people saying, hey, we really need to change things up a little bit? Like, we should highlight that, that course as an Elite Series event. Why aren't we seeing, any Florida events? All these questions we've had all these over the years, all these times, but I think that it's going to be particularly interesting this year because you have a bigger slate, it feels like, of Silver Series events that feel like they have a lot of promise.
And the other part that goes along with that is when you consider the most influential player right now, really, Paul Macbeth, and he comes out and he's only got 8 Elite Series on his schedule, is missing some of these Elite Plus, as they call them, in favor of tournaments like you've got Throwdown the Mountain, for example, not at all affiliated with the tour. You've got, he does his European swing that, fortunately for, I think, the Pro Tour is now going to be a part of it and is going to be broadcast. But Open at Tallahassee, another tournament that he's got on there that's not affiliated. Those choice of tournaments demonstrate when your star player is choosing to move elsewhere and to expand his slate of tournaments outside of your offering.
Presumably at least small financial cost, because the payouts will not be as good.
Oh, the payouts will be probably negligible to someone like Paul, who relative to his salary, right?
Well, and maybe that's the reason that it doesn't really matter, right? Because like he could get the big payout at the big event, or he could go to the small event, and he doesn't really care that much about the delta between those.
Yeah, well, he donates all of it to his foundation anyway.
100%.
So probably not. But my point being, these new events are, I think, an opportunity to test, learn, and grow, because the tour has to change, or you're not going to continue to hold on to your players, and they're going to go where the best events are. And sometimes novelty can outweigh the purse and the professionalism, as their contracts still are significantly higher than winnings.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think there's any kind of like dire situation for the Pro Tour, but we have not seen a lot of risk-taking when it comes to the schedule, and I think this year is going to set that in motion in some ways. Josh, what do we got at number 2? Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Well, let's move on to number 2.
Okay.
Number 2, can Kristen run it back? The kind of season that Kristen had is one that, I mean, you can go back, you can find our episode where we talk about, whether or not Kristen's season was historic. In a lot of ways, it fails to reach the historic mark, right? There are times in the past where the likes of, Juliana Korver just doesn't lose events, right? And wins the entire season. You have cases of Paige with just absolute and utter dominance on tour as well. Majors. There are a lot of ways you can cut it individually that demonstrate a more historic season per se, but it still is a level of consistency in golf and consistency in performance at the highest level that the game has ever been for the FPO division.
Super important point.
Yeah. Ever been in the FPO division. That we often talk about, how is that going to change? How is the FPO division getting more competitive? That there are more players than ever who have the opportunity to win those events. And for Kristen, every year that Kristen is able to do this, if she's able to do it again, right? That's a big, big if. And the if that really makes this storyline. But if Kristen does it again, I think it is magnitudes more impressive than what was already a very memorable season. This is comboed with a player who now received the highest award for sports in Estonia. I don't know if we talked about the news on that. I don't remember the exact title of the award, but
she's becoming a superstar in Estonia.
She is. She's sponsored by a major retail brand. She's a superstar. She met with the Estonian Prime Minister after her win. So many things that Kristen embodies about what it could mean for a disc golf star to be a celebrity and an athlete, right? Where those two are one and the same in a country that is per capita more obsessed with disc golf than the United States. And it comes in no small part from her success and the consistency of her success last season that framed it as such. If she's able to do it again, I mean, it's a story that as we continue to progress in disc golf, on the MPO side, you have Ken Climo, but on the FPO side, you're going to talk about Kristen Tatar in 10 years and the kind of like ascension to dominance in her 30s.
It's going to be, here's the thing. What's embedded in this is all of the other players who are trying to make that not a reality. Yeah, obviously you've got Paige Pierce, right? Last year was Kristen versus Paige. We saw some of those battles, but Kristen won the battle. I mean, you know, she won the war anyway. There were some battles and skirmishes that Paige won, but Kristen was totally dominant. But what about Katrina Allen? What about these young players who are coming up? Super exciting young talent. Ella Hansen, Maria Oliva, Holland Handley, Kat Murch,
Haley King,
who
wasn't
feels like
there.
In some ways she kind of took a year off last year and she still won a major.
Yeah.
And for my money, maybe had the best hole of anybody last year when she eagled 16
I don't remember. You talk about it a lot.
At U.S. Women's. Sticks in my brain. It was the highlight. It was the highlight shot of my commentating last year for sure. So you have all of these other players who are trying to take Kristen down off that spot. And Kristen is dealing with, fame and photo shoots and a surgery on her elbow. And
living in 2 continents
and having to go back and forth
and a daughter
with a young daughter, and she navigated that last year so amazingly successfully. Can she bring it back? And then you've got Evelina and Henna who are doing off-season serious training and they're working on their mental game. I mean, it's an exciting time.
I'm trying to think right now of another athlete who rose to the top of their sport after what is considered their athletic prime, especially around the circumstances that Kristen has. Because, I mean, Kristen is not going to be labeled the GOAT, right? She's not going to get that title in FPO.
It would require 10 years of this, which is extremely unlikely at her age.
Because the GOAT also implies a sense of longevity of the dominance, which is why I think that still very much belongs to Paige Pierce. But it's such a unique storyline for Kristen. Do you have, I know, I posited it, but let me ask.
Oh my gosh.
Any sport, someone who after their athletic prime, playing disc golf, considered good, did well, and then in their 30s ascended to a new level and just.
Now keep in mind, Kristen did win a major. Well, I think she was 29 when she won her major, or 28 or something like that. I think
she went in 20.
It's not like there weren't signs of excellence pre-30, but I get your point. I get your point. There have got to be some baseball players who have done this.
Probably.
I am not going to be able to speak to that, but I promise you there's some random pitcher who was just a journeyman forever and then suddenly became a Cy Young winner. Whether they're considered one of the greats all time, probably not, but
I think it's
TBD whether Kristen is that.
I was about to say,
what if Kristen comes out here and is fine, but she's 7th on the Pro Tour this year? I don't think that's likely, but it's not like it's impossible that could happen. And last year becomes kind of this, wow, that was a pretty cool season, but we're not talking about her anymore.
If Kristen could have 2 more years like this last year, and I still don't think in 30 years Kristen is one of the greats. She is.
Sure.
I mean, think of. I mean, the sports examples could go on, right, and on, but longevity is such an important part in sports and the length of your duration, having moments and flashes and even years worth of brilliance is not enough to be one of the great.
I think she could do this for 5 years, though, at least.
That
Why
could
not?
be enough.
Why not? It's not like her game is directly predicated on like max power. It's not. I mean, she was limited with power most of the back half of last season, and she won Worlds going away.
Yeah.
So, hey, bring it on.
This is what makes it such a great storyline.
Let's go.
Makes it such a great storyline.
It's not number one, though.
It is
Josh,
not.
number one, all eyes on the Crush Boys. And we're not Discmania. We can call them the Crush Boys if we want. Eagle and Simon are going to be connected at the hip forever. I mean, obviously, they're going to be great friends for life. And they are going to be must-watch TV to start this year and probably throughout. Mm-hmm. Because you've got Eagle coming off of a year-long injury in which we got glimpses of greatness at the European Open, but also, long stretches of him not playing. Mm-hmm. And then we've got Simon Lizotte, who's making this crazy bag switch. And, can he pull it together? Can he replicate this incredible 2022 season he had? I mean, Tiger Woods came back, right, and played the Genesis Invitational this past weekend.
Yep.
And when he announced 70. He was going to play, I mean, it's just, I don't care that much about golf. I'll watch the Masters every year. I've got it on all that. I got multiple screens. I'm watching all the feature cards. Love the Masters. But that's probably about as far as my golf fandom goes. I might watch some of the other majors depending on what's going on. I loosely follow the storyline. But when Tiger's playing the Genesis, I got money on him. Let's go, Tiger. I'm going to bet on you to get birdies. He is just such an iconic athlete. And that is Simon, right? Simon is not Tiger Woods in terms of the player, but sure. He's eyes on him right now because of what he was able to do last year, and now this monumental move. And everybody wants to see, can he do it again? How does he make this switch? Josh, you've been super down on his chances of playing well this year, I feel like, but I think it's going to be incredibly exciting to see if he can.
I'll even double down on that. Wow. I was very disappointed at All-Star Weekend in the distance competition. So Simon throws his first shot, and I mean, it's with a grain of salt, of course, but 609 feet, I think is what it was. Just big shot, turnover, nice S-turn. He hits it. So then he starts throwing big, right? And first one way overcooked. And then the last four were so far out of bounds, just not even close. It's very clear he does not have a clear feel for his discs yet and does not have them on lock. And it makes me worried. Now, he got one on. He threw the normal golf shot, or his normal golf shot.
And he threw it 600 feet, Josh.
And he threw it 600 feet. So I got to give him some credit there. But if I had told you that Simon Lizotte was going to be the shortest thrower of the distance competition, I don't know if you'd have believed me. Kevin Jones, Kyle Klein, throw down some rollers, which we got to move on. There's another Crush Boy we got to talk about. Kyle Klein laying it down 685 feet, I think is what it was, in a roller.
It's cool. I'll give him credit. That's a cool thing.
Crazy.
Has no business being in a distance contest. This is not hole one at LVC or whatever, where anything goes. You got to get it down there. You can throw a roller, sure. I don't want to watch you throw a roller. If you want to have a roller contest, have a roller contest. It should be outlawed to throw rollers in a distance throwing contest.
I just don't agree. Let them, whatever they want to do to get it down the field is fine with me. Because, what? Are you going to tell Double G that rollers aren't permitted at Winthrop either?
I like rollers. I think rollers can be really cool and exciting. Mm-hmm. Have a separate roller category. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to be seeing people throwing air shot. I want air shots. I don't want people to just come in here and try to pull the wool over our eyes with a roller. It's cheating. They're cheating. Kyle Klein is a cheater.
This is outrageous. This is outrageous. This is old school golf over here, guys. People, no, I don't want no rollers over here. Not my C tiers.
Listen, I guarantee you, People are going to email in and they're going to 100% agree with me. They're going to 100% agree with me. All the listeners, every single listener is going to agree with me. Josh, you're on an island on this one.
There was a Discord debate. I can pull it up. That someone had already, I think it was Harry Messenger, who was like, I don't want to see rollers in this event. And someone else was like, why not? They're great. And so this is happening simultaneously while we're recording. Whatever it takes. That's what they do in the course. If there is a 1,000-foot hole and you're down by 2 strokes, you're going to throw the roller. It doesn't matter how tight the OB is because you got to have a chance. I love it. But all eyes on Eagle coming back from the injury. All eyes on Simon. Kyle Klein now taking up the number 2 spot at Discmania. Is he going to ascend to the pressure? Started out really slow last season.
Yeah, can he come back to 2021 form?
Really got to adjust. It was adjusting to being on tour full time, but started to come into form near the end of the season. I think he could have a really good year this year. And then we've got to talk about the rumors. Now, this is Friday. Potential crush boy, Gannon Burr. Again, Friday, 17th. We don't know anything at this point. I don't know if there will be an announcement, but I mean,
stampless discs at All-Star Weekend. What do we know? We know nothing.
We know that Gannon can't putt with whatever he was using.
It was not his usual putting self, that's for sure.
But you can't blame the guy, right?
Can't blame the guy.
If you swap putters right before an event, but it feels weird. Just like everything around it, and Gannon,
it's so weird.
Gannon just before the season, it's like, oh yeah, guys, I'm out.
And then, but like no announcement before a big like promotional event where you, in theory, would want to have a big announcement. I don't know what's going on. But look, Gannon is certainly somebody on the list of conversations. We're including him here in the Crush Boys categories, you know, potential future Crush Boy or something like that. I think he's regardless of where he ends up, maybe he goes mixed bag. Maybe he goes no sponsor. I'm sure that's not happening. But if that were to happen, like, it's still going to be a story almost no matter what, because of how much incredible potential he has and what a great season he had last year, coming off the USDGC win. It's a lot of fun. You know, I think what's interesting, Josh, is that talking about Paul and Ricky is like, doesn't feel that compelling this year in a weird way. And they might win the most tournaments. They might, between them, sweep the majors, you know, like, it just, they're so established as such great players. At least for now, it doesn't feel like they're going to be the defining players of the season, at least to get it started.
I just got to say, though, I love that the Crush Boys is now synonymous with tall, long, and lanky, and it is some way associated with Discmania. Sponsored by Discmania, was sponsored by Discmania, rumored to be sponsored by Discmania.
It's like the ghost of Christmas present, future, and past.
As long as you fit the build and you're tall, long, and lanky, you can be, and you have that affiliation, you can be visited too by the ghost of Discmania Crush Boys.
Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, the season is almost here. We're going to get our preview show up nice and early on Thursday so that you can get ready to roll at the Las Vegas Challenge. And Josh, guess what? You got to get ready. We're making our first picks of the year and our first official over-under of the season. It's all coming up on Thursday right here on the Upshot. Don't miss it.